Kramer, Beal,
Yep.
Tomcheck,
Yes.
Zebro.
Yes.
All present, but Carl Kramer and Hewitt.
Thank you. Item number 3 is the Pledge of Allegiance. You guys can join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4 is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion adjourned.
Motion to approve, do I have a second?
I'll second
There's a motion and a second, any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is a public forum. The public forum provides the public with the opportunity to ask questions about or address issues included on the school board meeting agenda. General operating rules of the public forum will be determined by the board president once the number of people wishing to speak is identified on the night of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience this evening that would like to address the board? Being a small audience, I'll ask a second time. We'll move on to item number 6, which is discussion and possible decision, approval of resignation of elementary school teacher.
Motion approved. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board, or Angie, you want to?
No, we
Comment?
absolutely are excited for Heather. She's been looking for that leadership opportunity. She has her first chance to take a principal role at a smaller school in Merrill, so she's super excited about it. So wish her the best as she goes forward and pursues her dream of leading.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries as well. Item number 7 is the discussion, review scope and cost of energy efficiency projects with Nexus.
Hi, John. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for taking the time. My name is Steve Schoner. I'm an account executive with Nexus. I'm joined here tonight by Hans Knoll. Hans is our one of our development engineers, and also joining us tonight will be Mike David, one of Nexus's principals. He's coming out of the Minneapolis area and ran into a little bit of traffic coming out, so he'll be a couple minutes late. So with that, I'll get started. I thought since we haven't had an opportunity to chat with you before tonight, be a little bit of an opportunity for us to tell you a little bit about Nexus, who we are, a little bit of background on us, and then we'll get into, I'll turn it over to Hans, and Hans will do the scope discussion. Our agenda for tonight's meeting, Nexus Solutions, who we are, our experience, the RFP analysis. You went through a formal process as required by state statute, doing a request for qualifications, and in that there was also some scope of work that the district wanted to have looked at. That has been looked at in detail, and we come back with a scope of work and the associated costs of doing that work. And then we'll have any questions and answers. It's informal, so if you have any questions during the way, please stop us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have ongoing. So a little bit about Nexus. Nexus is a professional services firm. That means we have different services. You only pay for the services that we're contracted with you to provide. We are also an energy services company, which we refer to as an ESCO. And that's important because the legislation that you are able, it looks at this particular time, to take advantage of. You've been given a reprieve with the governor's budget being in limbo. And it's afforded you an extra month or so of time to pull a project together. But to utilize that legislation, you must procure using a energy services company that will guarantee the results in the project. Okay, our normal mode of operation is to engage with a district early on and provide multiple facets, whether it's and really our focus is on providing a comprehensive infrastructure master plan. And part of that master plan is what we're at today, what we'll call sort of like a phase 1, which is maximizing the energy and operational savings that the board can partake of without having to go to a referendum to be able to pass. And that's the Act 32 legislation. But on the follow-up to that is the comprehensive portion that could potentially lead to another referendum down the road for the capital item. Because what you're saying to your constituents is that we've done everything we can. We're gonna take the energy savings that are associated with it, and we're gonna plow those back into the infrastructure of our building. And we're gonna utilize the legislation that's available to us to do that kind of work. But we're gonna need your help on the back end for capital items that don't fall under that, if you so choose to go that route. You'll see on the list of accounts that we show, there's probably 6 or 7 districts that we've done this first phase of being the revenue limit exemption or Act 32 work, followed by a referendum on the tail end, if the district so chose to go that route. We're heavily into capital planning and project development, and we'll get into it in a little bit, but we actually look at the project as a three legs of a stool. One is providing the right technical solution. Second is providing a financial way to pay for that solution, and the third is the political. How do you communicate what you're going to do to the public? Okay. We have extensive knowledge on education finance. Our principal that'll be coming tonight, Mike David, actually wrote the Act 32 legislation back in 2011, marrying it after some legislation in Minnesota where he was very familiar with. Saw that there was about $4 billion of unaddressed needs in the state of Wisconsin, growing at about 4%, 5% a year. So they're never going to get there without the help of Act 32. And we have offices in Madison, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis. Here's a partial list of the accounts that we've worked with, and we don't show you this to wow you with the size of the projects, although there are some rather large ones out there. We show you this to really show that the breadth of where we're at across the state, and the fact that you would not be the first client to utilize this legislation. We've got the surrounding area pretty well locked up. When you look at the work we've done 3 phases at Wausau. We've done Nakusa down the road. We just, the districts at the bottom, Stevens Point, DC, Everest, Merrill, Wisconsin Rapids, and Montello and Manawa, all were sitting in where you're sitting about a month ago, prior to the June 30th deadline. Did the same thing. And Stevens Point, DC Everest, and Wisconsin Rapids will be doing large projects and more than likely follow up with very large referendum on the back end. Okay? So those are just a partial list of the districts that we have done work with, but you can see it's pretty extensive. So where are we at tonight? We've done the concept introduction and talking to Brent. We did the RFP as required by, you did the RFP as required by state statute. The provider selection. You entered into a project development agreement with Nexus to do the work that we're currently doing. And tonight, it really is the project selection and the funding plan consultation is what project are you gonna select? That we've had consultation with the administration and how are you going to pay for that particular project. So we're at the board approval tonight. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Hans. I'll make one preface. You will notice in the scope of work that was selected, the district or the administration heeded I guess the recommendation from either the board or the local community in the sense that you really need to fix what you got. There's nothing extravagant here. This is it's like fixing the stuff in your house, fixing your boilers, replacing windows, doors, roofs, the structural things that need to be done. But you will notice on virtually all of the pictures that we have, you all have the same kinds of things. Energy savings, operational savings, cost avoidance, of not having to repair things down the road that you're currently having to repair. So with that, I'm going to turn the development part over to Hans, and then I'll finish up on the back end.
Sure. So my focus with Nexus is to work with folks like the building and grounds leaders like Steve himself to help develop and go through identify improvements within the building, identify the associated savings, both energy savings and operational savings. Steve was instrumental. You guys have an exceptional B&G guy, unlike a lot of other districts where he had a lot of this identified already. He's lived it through the number of referendums, which you guys know. So meeting Steve, going through the buildings with him 2 or 3 times, what I will be presenting to you here, know that we've gone through and rolled up our sleeves and custom discussed a little bit on what should and shouldn't be done. We've had meetings with the admin team, and we've taken a lot of things out, put some things in we felt were priorities. So know this, what we present to you here over the next 15 minutes wasn't done in a vacuum. I'm going to try and go through it pretty quickly, be respectful of your time, but don't hesitate to interrupt me if you got any questions or want any more technical information. So, to start off with, at the elementary school, 1975 section, that's kind of the westerly wing. There's 3 air handling units, 2 serve the 1975 core area, another one serves the adjacent cafeteria. Those units are 40 years plus old. It's time for them to get replaced. The thought was to replace those and move them to the rooftop, to the roof for more convenient maintenance in the future, providing Steve and his team some more storage space in the center. At that time, we would add cooling to the cafeteria unit. So the wins for the district here are going to be improved occupancy comfort. So we're going to get modern units in there that can meet heating and cooling requirements. We're going to get improved, you're going to hear me say IAQ, indoor air quality. You're going to get improved indoor air quality for the students and staff in there, because we'll be able to design these new units for modern ventilation requirements, okay? Reduce energy with newer modern units again. Improved occupancy comfort, I said that with the additional added cooling. Another thing is we talk about this and adding cooling at some other places. Remember that cooling does a very important job in dehumidifying. And this extends the life of the building, in that you prevent from having to replace sagging ceiling tiles, from potential moisture on floors. Humidity tends to go from high humidity to low humidity, so you get that infusion from through drywall, through building envelopes. Sometimes you'll see effervescence on block walls. So by dehumidifying, you extend the life of the buildings that you've already invested in. So a lot of benefits to replacing these. To go along with that, it's important to understand that center area at the elementary school, first and second floor, were originally designed as an open concept. Through the years, the district's added walls, but one thing that was not done as part of that was rezone the ventilation system. So right now, there's a lot of hot and cold complaints over there. In addition to that, you don't have a typical galvanized sheet metal ductwork with insulation for energy savings and for control of airflow. You've got what's called fiber duct. Fiber duct's really common in the 1970s. It was an inexpensive ductwork, and it was just that. It's a square piece of hard cellulose fiber meant to travel air. Well, again, for being 40 years old, there's obviously leaks in that, which means you're not getting air to critical spots. You're not providing ventilation and heating and cooling in an efficient manner. So we want to replace that in these areas. We want to rezone that entire area while we're replacing the air handling unit, so that we can size that air handling unit properly and really improve the occupancy comfort throughout that area. Again, reducing future maintenance and improving energy use. 1993 area, this is on the easterly-most kitchen area, and then the westerly-most three-story area that was additioned in 1993. Again, those condensing units, that's the cooling portion for these units, are on their last leg. We want to get those replaced in a planned situation versus an emergency situation. Will be more expensive for the school, and it's going to cause distractions in the learning environment. It's really not feasible to do it. You can do just the cooling portion, but being that those units are 25 years plus, or going on 25 years old, in an effort not to spend good money after bad, this is the time to replace those in the same fashion in a planned replacement. So we're looking to replace those 2 units, again, serving the kitchen in the west classroom.
What's the life expectancy then on the units being replaced with a new one?
So the indoor air handling unit itself would be about 25 to 30 years, and the condensing unit is about 20 to 25, so you're living, you're right, this is about the time to replace it. And Steve's been having issues with those, so the one hand is to keep putting money into them and repairing them to keep them going or replace them with new, more efficient equipment. Lastly, at the elementary school, in that same 1993 era, you've got variable volume air boxes, VAV boxes. 1990, Train made a unit that was unlike some of its counterparts in that it was a plunger style. It had a worm gear. 10 out of 10 buildings we go in now that have this VAV boxes, we replace those because either they're not functioning or they're wired open, so they're not functioning properly. So, and that's no different than this area over there. Steve knows that those are having issues. So again, this is the time to modernize that. Along with the next item is taking out the pneumatics and going to DDC. DDC is direct digital controls or electronic controls. So the district's made a wise investment. It's got an overlay system right now, meaning that Steve's got some graphics and some ability to control it from a workstation, but still at the unit, the actuation is done through pneumatics. So that means it's an analog system. It's open, closed, minimal modulation. Once you go to a DDC system or electronic control system, you really can afford yourself to put proper scheduling in. You can do remote monitoring, remote scheduling. You can get in some advanced energy saving sequences so that you can utilize CO2 or on-demand controls along with the exact outdoor air temperature to really maximize savings and improve indoor air comfort. As I go through this, as I go to the next buildings, you're going to hear that a lot. A lot of these items that we go through, whether it's controls, lighting, electrical systems, mechanical, the intent is to improve the indoor air comfort, reduce future maintenance costs, and improve savings.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
I saw improve indoor air comfort. Is that something that you think I would notice? Like if I went there now and made a mental note of taking a deep breath and what it feels like in there, and then all these repairs are done, and I go in there on a similar day, am I gonna?
Sure.
If they were back-to-back days, would I be like, oh, I'm more comfortable in here?
I think so. I guess one thing that this process hasn't allowed us to do, and typically we'd like to do some surveying and see what the occupants' feelings are for the areas that. But I suspect yes, you would know it, and the big reason why is there's a lot of studies that have been done to show that increased amount of ventilation. Empirically, students and teachers do a better job, and right now those units were designed for minimum ventilation code, usually 7.5 CFM per person, sometimes less when we'll get to the high school in the 80s, 70s and 80s. Right now we would design for 15 CFM per person. So we're really increasing the amount of outside air.
They've changed those codes and those requirements, haven't they?
Yep, exactly, and it's because there's countless studies that do show that increased amount of fresh air, and that's obvious. You get a lot of, you know that, like you said, you get a lot of people in a room, it starts feeling stuffy, it starts feeling humid, you start getting odors and whatnot, so I believe you'd see that.
Thank you.
Will we no longer be able to vent the bathroom exhaust into our return air?
Yeah, that's, try and comment on that.
How about that, as Dan mentioned,
Is that a deal breaker?
the standard has changed, right?
Yeah.
The amount of air exchanges per occupant person, right? Will the proposals accommodate that new requirement?
Yes, absolutely.
Now that digital control, will that be able to be monitored off a phone?
Thank you.
As well as a mounted system within the building?
Yep, there would be a web-based system. There's a number of controls contractors that would be allowed to bid on the project, so we haven't identified a single product. But we ensure that you're gonna get a web-based system, a non-proprietary system, meaning that you're not gonna be locked into one contractor, that once that system's in here, you've got your selection of a number of qualified contractors that can service that equipment. So, but the answer is yes. It'll be a web-based system, so that as long as you've got the rights to the firewall, whoever's got those rights to get to the firewall can do that through their phone, through their home computer, or from their computer in the building. Good questions. Moving to the middle school, starting off with the older part, the 1922, 39. You know, Steve and I, we went through it and identified there's a lot of needs for that side of the building. What we presented here to you is kind of a minimal amount of upgrades in order just to keep the fitness centers going, the third floor going, and then the common spaces serving those areas, not knowing what the future plan is for this wing of the building. So really doing a minimal amount in order to keep those areas working properly, but not over-investing in it, and again, throwing good money after bad, not knowing where this is going to go. In the 1985 section, we kind of have a unique situation in that when the 1993 area was added on, that mechanical system absorbed a lot of the 85 building. So what happened is you got a boiler that's sized for probably four times what's serving now. Right now it's serving about 4 classrooms, and it operates terribly inefficiently because the boiler cycles on, it cycles off, and this is where the boilers, you lose a lot of that heat out the flue. So we want to get rid of that boiler, get rid of the unit ventilators that are in those classrooms. Unit ventilators are noisy for the teachers, for the students. They don't ventilate properly. They're an inexpensive first cost piece of equipment that a lot of building new schools today, new buildings today, we try and get away from for obvious reasons. So again, this one we're going to improve occupancy comfort by getting rid of those unit ventilators, providing an air handling unit with cooling at this time for those rooms, overhead ductwork, get proper ventilation and circulation in that area. Reduce energy. We're going to tie to your existing hot water system, take advantage of the existing investment in the high school boiler room, and then improve the learning environment there.
Hans, on the 2239 portion of the building, do we get entirely out of those corridors that are in there now that are used for heating and cooling? Or are we going to rooftop units, or what does that look like?
Well, we'd use a air handling unit on a pad outside to serve the fitness area, and then the corridors, the locker room, we still need to identify the best way to do that. Right now, there's some electric heat in there. I'd like to utilize that existing boiler just to keep those corridors, the locker room tempered, and same with the third floor, just for heating.
And those classrooms, will the air exchange meet the current standards of 15
Likely,
cubic feet per
if we do new units, yes. If not, we'd want to shy away from investing in anything that's going to do that. We would have to put a more significant investment in.
I didn't hear you talking about the classrooms, we were talking about the
Third floor.
fitness center, third floor, and the hallways.
Yeah. So those
We're not
classrooms-
touching the classrooms.
Correct, yes.
And the reason for that is because it's ridiculously old building.
The third floor is classrooms. But I imagine it gets so hot up there because it is the third floor.
It is.
But I don't know if we can count on ever having that replaced either. So
We need
that
to-
we may need one discussion.
Yeah, that's the one area that we need to evaluate a little bit further. We're comfortable in the amount of money that we've got in there to handle it, but we haven't nailed down the best solution for it. We're trying to shy away from providing a rooftop unit, like you're saying, but that might be what has to happen.
Would that roof support a roof?
Yeah, exactly, that's what we're trying to stay away from. If not, we gotta go to Jason Roof and duct over, which creates maintenance in the future. We feel comfortable with our solution, and we'll find a solution for that. We do need to investigate that.
We understand the cost though, of the solution we're looking at right. Right.
One thing you could mention is that originally we had evaluated, not taking into consideration the future of the building. What would it cost to do it right? It was about $1.5 million. The revised solution, not knowing where it's gonna be, is about $500,000. So there was about $1 million differential. So that's a discussion point that you need to
It's good to know.
Okay.
Do we have those discussion points now, or do we have it
It's in
when we go
the
through the numbers? Spreadsheet?
I think when you get to the spreadsheet, you'll see, for those of you that add the numbers up, you're gonna go, whoa, this doesn't quite add up. But if you look to the left, Hans will show you that if it doesn't have an X on it, it's not something that we were recommending.
Understood.
So on that spreadsheet, you'll see that. We'll talk about that.
the hypothetical, if we invested to do it right, for that building, $1.5 million, and God willing, 5 years from now, we bulldoze that building, does that equipment, I mean, I realize it would lose some value, but is it useful to be repurposed into a different solution at a different building or somewhere else?
Some of it's salvageable, but it's pennies on the dollar. And the reason why I say a lot of that money is that's a 3-foot thick concrete in some places, so a lot of money is routing ductwork through there, upgrading the electrical infrastructure for the new and the proper equipment, so we're
It's
just.
not necessarily the actual
Yeah,
furnace.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of piggybacking off of getting rid of those unit ventilators in the 1985 area, the 1996 exterior peripheral, all of those unit ventilators. So for all the same reasons, we'd like to get rid of those at this time. They don't have cooling. We would go to rooftop units, provide a traditional overhead air VAV system with cooling, and again, improve the learning environment there while trying to save energy. The way we save energy, some ask, while increasing the outdoor air is going to an energy recovery unit. These are pretty standard units now to take advantage of, since we're increasing the amount of outside air, we're also increasing the amount of relief air. We put what's called a heat wheel there, and we capture some of that heat that goes from the relief air into the outside air. They're very efficient nowadays, so that's how we're still able to save energy. In the core of the 1996 area, most of which was built in '85, right now you've got a traditional overhead air system. There's 2 air handling units inside right now that are heating that area and cooling that area. Again, those cooling units that are on the roof that are serving the air handling units are shot, need to be replaced. Our recommendation is to remove those units, replace with new rooftop units. This does a couple things. Number one, it provides Steve and his team more storage area, which is needed. It gets units on the roof for serviceability, but also as part of the referendum that where those currently the relief and exhaust would have been blocked up. There would have had to been some strategy for extending that. Not to say that you're going to continue with the way the referendum is laid out now, but this affords you in the future to kind of set up for if you wanted to stick with that. As proposed, whether that's in 2 or 5 or 20 years, you're set up, and it doesn't take away from the existing. So if we do move those to the rooftop, they'll operate just the same, whether you build a building on that backside or not. Does that make sense? Cafeteria unit, one of your oldest rooftop units, if not your oldest rooftop. Again, the intent is to replace this with a new rooftop unit. Try to avoid replacing this in an emergency situation, which would really affect the students there, and it would frankly cost more money. Try and gain economies of scale by doing as much work now when it's going to be the cheapest. Again, you're going to improve the IAQ, improve occupancy, comfort, reduce energy, and maintenance. The middle school office has an older condensing unit. This is the cooling unit. We're proposing to replace that at this time. Here we would keep the existing air handling unit. The reason that this one's a little bit different is that it's a small enough unit that Steve and his team can replace that as needed. This is a type of unit, it's a small enough unit that just keep letting it run until it junks out, and it's small enough that you can get those parts locally and get that replaced on an as-needed basis. So we'll get the maximum usage out of that one. I talked about the benefits of pneumatic to DVC at the elementary school. Same applies here at the middle school. Lighting, everybody's heard the buzzword about LEDs, so Steve's already started and the board's already started installing LEDs throughout the middle school, high school, and the corridors. The elementary is getting all new LEDs if it hasn't already. In the process of that, so the district recognizes the benefits, not only energy savings, but LEDs have come a long way and really improve the light environment for students and staff. Reducing the amount of eye strain, matching the right amount of light levels that are required at desks nowadays with the amount of laptops, Chromebooks, iPads that are used within the curriculum. They've got the ability to dim, so we'd like to take advantage of that and really provide a lot of energy savings throughout the district. Lastly, at the middle school, you've got electrical infrastructure that's in some places 50-plus years old. So this is a safety and liability thing. Replacing distribution panels, branch panels, providing new feeders that have proper grounding on them, and extending that throughout the middle school side. Any questions on the middle school before I go to the high school?
The electrical upgrade there is, I mean, some of the parts and components serviceable, not for serviceable, probably no replacement parts even available. Huh?
Right, exactly. I mean, they're serviceable for now, but they're, God forbid they start shorting out or they go out now,
Yeah,
then you're gonna have to start from scratch. So again, this is the best thing to do in a planned replacement.
Any of the DDC power goes out. I mean, still can work fine. That's just a kind of a feature to be able to work off a computer or web-based.
Exactly. There's battery backups in those, and they'll run standalone without the brains are in the units, are at the air handling unit via boxes. But then, to control it, you've got a computer and you go through your IT system, your network wiring to adjust it. So yes, if power goes out, they still out.
These are all going to be Freon units that you're putting in for cooling?
Yes, refrigeration. I should note that existing refrigerant in all the units I've talked about at this point, and when I start talking about the high school, are R22, which has been phased out, or is being phased out. I think it's officially phased out in 2020, but they're not making any new, it's all reclaimed. And it's only getting more expensive and always getting more difficult to find. So you're going to newer refrigerants, which are R132 and R410A, a couple different ones that different manufacturers are utilizing.
Is it more economical to go Freon versus glycol?
It is a loaded question. We looked at that. We looked at going to a chilled water system, and that's one of the things I think it's in our list that is not included. It is more efficient, it is less maintenance, but since your buildings are already set up for refrigerant, what we call unitary systems, feasibility, we couldn't justify spending the premium to doing a chilled water system throughout the buildings when you're kind of already set up for that refrigerant. Had we started over or had a new building, certainly go with a chilled water system with glycol in it, but it's probably not a good spend of money right now.
You said a new building.
Yeah.
That's
Blasphemy. At the high school, starting in the 1960-65 wing, that area, you've got a boiler room. You've invested in two modern boilers over there that are doing a good job heating, but what's left over is a decommissioned Cleveland Brooks unit. Proposed to abate that and get that unit out of there. One thing that wasn't done is to rework the piping and the pumping package. So there's modern pumping schemes, piping schemes that we can rework that. Get new pumps in there, provide a variable primary pumping system which provides energy savings and reduces maintenance. Again, I've said it at the middle school, the unit ventilators are all on the perimeter. Not ideal for the learning environment, and these units are, 40 years plus. They're working on borrowed time, so going to a traditional overhead air system. Again, realizing the occupancy comfort benefits, the teaching benefits, curriculum benefits, if you will, energy, and reducing future maintenance. There's 4 units in the building where the condensing units are shot on it. We need to get those replaced. Those are in the high school office, main office, special ed.
No matter what role you're...
So we want to get those replaced now under a planned improvement. I've talked about the benefits of the pneumatic to DDC conversion, applying the same thing throughout the high school as we would the middle school and the older part of the elementary school. In the pools, you've got a dedicated heater for both the pool and the hot tub. And the risk here is this is priority number 1 to get these replaced. They're both living on borrowed time. You've got.
What just went down, Steve?
We just lost our adrenaline inducer portion of that, the rate-packed boiler, so I'm trying to find a new wheel for that. But, basically, I cannot run that unit right now. But basically what happened is, it's in a real corrosive environment, the wheel just deteriorated and basically flew apart. So It's a senior stage.
Yeah, so the solution is to provide a heat exchanger, take advantage of your existing boiler plant that's an adjacent boiler room, pipe the hot water down, and the intent is to, like Steve's saying, get rid of that mechanical intensive equipment, get it out of that highly corrosive environment. You'll still have a heat exchanger in there, but there's no, I mean, that's a simple plate and frame heat exchanger. Once you do that, we get that on the boilers that are heating the building, and you've got some redundancy there too. So hopefully you can bubble gum and duct tape that together until we can put a proper solution together like we've talked about and planned.
So Ann's pool is shut down?
Well, the heating, so the
The
temperature of the
pool's,
water.
the pool's operational, the temperature is dropping because I can't
Temperature is
maintain.
dropping.
That would be summer.
We'll funnel those phone calls to you.
Perfect. I can handle
Chill the water system, this is pretty simple, but I think very, very reasonable. Right now, the chilled water system in the 1996 edition, or build here, has a single pump on that chiller for the chilled water side and a single pump for the system side. What that means, if one of those pieces fail, you've got no cooling throughout the building. We want to replace those pumps because they're at the end of their life, but at that same time, we would provide redundancy. We provide two pumps so that in the future, if one needs servicing, we can maintain chilled water throughout the building. We looked at the pool air handling unit. Obviously, this unit runs 24/7. It circulates that highly corrosive air throughout the coils, throughout the ductwork, the run-around loop for energy savings. There's a couple options we looked at. We looked at replacing the unit, which was feasible, but it's very expensive, and we came to agree that rebuilding is probably a better option right now. It's basically given it a 150,000 mile tune-up here, so we replaced the coils, replaced the runaround loop, put a new shaft, new motor on the supply fan. We clean out the inside, put new insulation in, and build that unit back up like new so that we can extend the life of your existing investment. Again, that's going to reduce the amount of potential downtime for that pool in the future. Main gym air handling unit, this picture kind of says it all. You've got the air handling unit in an adjacent mechanical room. It's serving the varsity gym or the main gym from about 60 feet of ductwork. That ductwork is old, it's porous, meaning water's getting in there. That means it's internally lined insulation. That liner has lost its efficiency if it's even there when it gets moist. So the solution there is to move that unit out, put two units, what it would end up being, two units on the roof there, reduce or minimize, eliminate the amount of ductwork there, provide cooling at this point, provide a more efficient system, reduce the amount of maintenance again, provide modern outside air requirements for that unit.
You mentioned, the run, I mean, it's quite the run, right? With the proposed installs that you do have on the board, what kind of runs do you have? What kind of technology do you have between the actual rooftop unit and the ducting that might exist?
Sure. We would try and use spiral ductwork if we can, so that's round ductwork so the snow and water doesn't pond on it. There's some other newer technologies, I'm forgetting the technical name for it, but basically it assembles much quicker, it's insulated. It doesn't have exposed insulation on the inside. So, and then if something does happen, like you need to re-roof the building or you need to service it, it's easily disassembled and put back together. So that's another common problem when you get ductwork out here like this and you have other maintenance that needs to be done. So a couple different options that we look at. In this case, it would be the latter because we would try and reduce the amount. Where we've got duct runs of probably 10 to 20 feet or more, which we don't think we're going to have any. We would try and go to the spiral ductwork, which is just a more robust piece of a ductwork.
Thank you.
Is that ductwork still gonna run through the gym?
Yes.
Always thought of that as a real eyesore.
Yeah, unfortunately, we wouldn't change the ductwork on the inside. We would likely change the coils on the inside, but we just really be focusing on the source equipment, their handling unit. Older York unit, we couldn't find a model number on this, but it's suffice to say it's 1980s rooftop unit serving the high school office, needs to be replaced. This is the time to do it as part of this project, provide a energy efficient unit in there, modern refrigerant, like we say, we do this under a planned replacement. And then the boiler room. Steve has got a number of newer boilers in there providing efficient operation, but that boiler room lacks capacity, especially when we add the pools to it, the 1985 portion. He's already added through some of the rework in that middle school, we've already added capacity that it wasn't meant for. We're keeping up now, but we want to ensure that there's proper capacity on your coldest days, or if a couple of these boilers do go down. So we're looking to add a couple boilers and bring it up to modern requirements.
Is there room for those boilers
Yes.
in the room itself?
Yeah, that was originally had, 12 boilers in it?
Yeah, the room originally was designed at 12 million BTUs, 12 1 million BTU boilers. And right now we're at 8 million BTUs in that room. But like Hans said, we've taken off that same heating loop. We fed the middle school 69 section that feeds all that center core. So about 1 million BTUs we stole off of that. If we add on to the 85 section, probably still about 400,000 off of that. So you think about, we're losing all that heat that plant should have had, and I'm actually at, only about 2/3 of the capacity I should have. So it's really, it's up to handle it quite nice, to be honest with you, but they just had failed to be removed.
Yeah. So, not to beat this to death, but piping's there, concrete curbs are there, it's a matter of putting them in there, piping it up. There's a little bit of flue work because they're sealed combustion flues, so a little bit of flue and roof work, but it's fairly straightforward.
What rating would these be, efficiency?
They'd be condensing boilers, so on the coldest days, they get down to they get up to 96%, or 98% efficient.
What, so much to go through all the schools, and I confess I'm not aware of all the ductwork and air handling units and boilers. With the exception of what I think you mentioned was leaving a unit for the middle school offices, and that Steve can take care of when it dies. What aren't we addressing from a air conditioning and heating standpoint?
Middle school office, like you said, some of that, the high school, those 4 offices, air handling units would remain, just the condensing unit. Your 1996, this area has a lot of air handling units that would remain untouched, with the exception of the pool unit.
Elementary school geothermal?
Yeah, and then of course your elementary school is geothermal. So your elementary school would be good from an HVAC infrastructure moving forward for, 30, 40 years.
It's probably not the right way to spend money, but is there any geothermal capacity that could be utilized elsewhere in that school, or because of the existing infrastructure, it would just cost too much?
Well, I can interrupt for a second, because I know when that we put that system in. So when that was designed, you have a 12% capacity, extra capacity for heating and cooling in that loop. But I wouldn't want to touch that, just because if I'm on 4 loops, if I lose one, I got to shut 1 loop off, then I would be at about 80% capacity. So that's how it was designed, for a little bit of
I thought there
safety.
was excess, I thought it was more than that.
12% is all we got.
Okay.
That's a good question. We brainstormed on that one and quickly decided to just stick with the existing infrastructure. Lighting, I said it all at the middle school portion, same applies here at the high school, trying to provide a modern LED system with dimming it, at the very least dimming in the classrooms, so that the curriculum can take advantage of that. Same thing applies to the electrical upgrades here. You've got 50-plus-year-old equipment. The one thing I would note, you got a generator over here that's on its last leg. It sounds like you've had some issues in the past. So we
The
looked,
basketball game with the lights went out, where we were hosting that tournament game, and we all sat in the gym, and the generator didn't work.
Still got long flashlights.
so we'd like to, it's important to know, right now that generator serves the lighting only. We would, at this time, we'd like to upsize that building and add some emergency items. By code, they're non-critical, but there's still going to be a separate emergency power line, and that would serve your walk-in cooler, walk-in freezer. We don't want to lose the thousands of dollars of food that's in there in case there's an extended power outage. We would add the IT system. We would, main distribution center, MDS room would get added to that. We want to add the fire alarm, although the fire alarm's on a battery backup, but it's a short term, again, an extended power outage. We want that to be in the emergency system. We would add a couple boilers and a couple hot water pumps so that we can maintain heat. So that's pretty standard thing nowadays when we add, when we replace a generator and then the emergency infrastructure, we want to build that up for future need.
Now, does each one of these buildings have a separate generator for each building? Or is it
No.
just
No.
one?
No, there's a small generator at the elementary school and then one for the high school, manages both the light for the middle school and the high school. So,
And when he talks IT infrastructure, just to jump in on it, right now we use, I mean, you can literally think of them like car batteries we have sit around in our closets to keep our systems running. So when that basketball game happened, all it does is basically allows a 5-minute slow power draw off essentially a car battery right now. In each of those 7-8 closets. That's and the alternative that we use right now to keep it up and running.
But the retrofit with LEDs really decreases the draw too on your generator requirements.
by far.
Yeah, so we'll resize that generator for modern use. So those are that's the whole that we're presenting as part of this project. Like I said, there's a number of stuff that we evaluated that were dismissed for whatever reasons, but all in all, that ends up being about $43,000 worth of energy savings. You know, a lot of that is due to the lighting upgrades, and then
My number's different.
these.
Yeah, mine's
The first one was
Yeah,
70.
yeah, first one, what we did was we updated that, we took off the cooling penalty, so now we've added cooling in a number of
So
areas.
in our conversation, we talked a lot about that, and you went back, changed that.
We want the other number.
Thanks.
Yeah, we want to account for that cooling heat rate, or cooling penalty, I should say, so that's at the main gymnasium, that's in the elementary school perimeter, the high school perimeter, and then the cafeteria, the high school and middle school perimeter areas, and then the elementary school cafeteria.
Cooling penalty is.
Now that you don't have cooling now, so as you move forward, it's gonna have an energy impact, you're gonna have to pay for that added electrical.
No benefit, it's just gonna be a cost, because we're adding it as compared to replacing it.
Plastic global warming.
This is a pie graph, not for your guys' school from DPI, but we think it's a good graph that illustrates, we can reduce the amount of wasted energy, but also a major portion of spend within a school district is the cost to replace and the cost to maintain this equipment. And all that means is if we're getting rid of pneumatics or failing condensing units, Steve had a chance to go through the maintenance expenditures for the last 3 years. So clearly, if there's a spend on pneumatic service, we're getting rid of that. That's true dollars. It's not going to have to be spent in the future. If Steve's or his guys are spending money on an outside provider to fix the equipment that's getting replaced as part of this, we're taking advantage of that, and that's true budget reducing savings. What's important to know, what is not in that is Steve and his team's time. Obviously, we're not going to get rid of them. Now, those guys and gals are going to be able to focus on preventative maintenance. They'll be freed up, but that's not budget reducing. So going through this, we identified about $17,000 added onto that utility savings I spoke of before, bringing up to $61,000 annually, and aggregated over 20 years, it's about $1.8 million. So you can see how we can make this tax efficient by the first $1.8 million of this project is paid for through not giving it to the utilities, spending it, the utilities are outside goods and services.
As Mr. Barnes pointed out, an awful lot of replace, right? Any salvage on any of the things that potentially this proposal would replace? I mean, it's all.
No,
It's got a serious period,
it's
huh?
all, the newest stuff is 25 years plus, and a lot of it is 30 to 40 years old.
So when Steve opened, he mentioned guaranteed results. Are these the guaranteed results from this project?
Yes, on the savings portion, yes.
Okay. You guys don't do any plumbing work? Because we have a lot of plumbing issues too.
We
You can't capture that in this
Water savings,
project?
sewer savings, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
We want to
Phase
focus
two.
on, yeah, phase two.
I have a couple more questions, I don't know if this is good time or not, but, a lot of potential here, I think a lot of us see it. In your experience with, you know, approaching and dealing with districts like ourselves, when does a project, quite honestly, go bad? I don't see anything negative here at all, we see a lot of positives. What hurdles or what things do we need to avoid to make sure that this is successful for our district? And I think you kind of touched on it earlier, but just want to know what your experiences are.
You want to take that, you want to take it?
Sure, I'll take
Let's
this
give you a
one.
chance to talk.
Key issue, I'm not exactly sure where you're coming from there, but key issue in the success of any project is going to be communication. You know, we're dealing with concepts and budgets right now, it'll be communicating to the staff of what's going to happen. Then making sure that we've got good, tight designs, so that we get good bids from contractors, because the contracting market is heating up substantially. So where it can go bad is if you don't have tight specs and we end up with cost overruns, that's obviously a bad thing. Okay, we've built the budgets that we should be able to accommodate that, you know, based on current market prices. And then again, the idea is to have good tight specs that'll drive our contractor prices down. So again, the key is making sure that we can address all the work within the budgets we've allotted.
Good answer.
Are there variances then in the numbers that are given us, or is it a guaranteed number that we'd be working on?
We have kind of a guaranteed number. We guarantee that the cost won't exceed this. If they do, we need to re-engineer it at our expense, come up with a comparable solution for less money. Assuming the bids come in less, the district keeps the difference. So what we
And
do
tell us
is-
what we have to do with that difference. Tell the board what they have to do with that difference. So say that we see a $500,000 savings.
Yep.
That's not something that
You can't use it to
Brady
buy
can't
books.
go buy computers or books, or I can't, you know, I can't do anything with that money.
Correct. You would, what we do, the way the process would work is, if there's bid underage, we would move that to the contingency budget first, okay? To make sure that they would have enough money to complete the entire project. Then, assuming we get to the end of the project and say that we have a $500,000 surplus, the district's options would be to A, apply that toward other items that would be eligible for the revenue limit exemption, or B, would be to apply it toward the debt service. So,
For
So
example,
it
some
has
of
to
your
be
plumbing items could conceivably be addressed with any shortfall that we have or overage that we have available.
When you go back to our list, that comprehensive list, you'll see there's lots of.
you'll have other items under, so you aren't able to move it to the general fund per se, but what you could do is tackle other items that are, that would otherwise have to be paid for as part of the general fund, that would be eligible for the revenue limit exemption, and then you thereby kind of free up those general fund dollars that could be used for textbooks, computers, et cetera. So, or again, the other option is directed to debt service, which would lower the tax impact. Most clients, I'd say 9 out of 10, usually say, we've got other needs, the right thing to do is let's just tackle those additional needs, but that's completely up to the school district. I believe we have also built in some owner's discretionary money, correct? We knowing that, again, that this was kind of put together quickly, but even if we spent 3 years putting a plan together, experience has taught us that we'd get 2 months into it, and somebody would say, oh, while you're here, we should have had you do this. And so knowing that, what we do is, we have contingency built into all the line items for unforeseen conditions, but then we also have a designated line item, which is kind of an owner's controlled contingency, that are for those additional items that while we're here, you might say, hey, we'd like to have you address this or this, you know, some additional items. And in the event that you don't use that, again, it kind of functions the same way as any bid surplus.
That's your owner's discretionary fund that you're in here on your chart that you're gonna look at.
Correct, exactly. Again, just trying to think ahead, there's no obligation to include that, we just had found it's a good idea.
Your estimates on your energy savings, how did you not include the options, quite honestly, for the 1922, 1939 portion of that data collection, correct?
Have you given it any thought to taking the heat off the compressor heads for warm water?
Have not. We would have done that for the pool heating, that's pretty typical to do had we replaced that unit and had cooling on it, but we don't. We've looked at that and right now it just isn't feasible to do what you'd be calling as a runaround loop. So it's adding an entire separate loop that collects the heat off those compressor heads, runs it back, it just isn't feasible. There's not enough energy savings for that. Again, if we were building new, a lot of designers will build new, they won't take, what they'll do instead of taking the heat off, they'll put those compressors, the condensing units, right in front of an outdoor intake, and they'll put some dampers so that when it's warm, they'll get some of that hot air, naturally hot air in there. That's been pretty common lately.
Any other questions on that? If not, I'll pick back up a little bit here. Some key takeaways, I guess, from presentation. The state with the revenue limit exemption has given districts a lot of flexibility to be able to get work done that really makes sense for the taxpayer. And being able to address things now that you just weren't able to address in the past. Two is the financing rates. Rates are at historic lows still. The advantage of doing stuff now, as Mike alluded to a minute ago, is that last referendum cycle was $1 billion worth of referendum passed, right? So you've got escalating contractor costs across the state, I don't care where you go. And now in southeast Wisconsin, you're going to be adding Foxconn for another $10 billion of investment. So, you know, we're seeing significantly higher increases in prices going forward than what you're seeing in interest rates. So if you've got the need to do something, now's the time to take advantage of in doing this. So we talked about the early on normal procedures to do comprehensive. We've done the first part because we had to get something really quick here. We have taken into consideration the tax, and your administration has taken into consideration the tax impact that this will have on your community. The performance guarantee that you alluded to a minute ago for guaranteed portion, and it minimizes your risk. We call it sort of one throat to choke because we're the program manager. We don't have this somebody engineering it, somebody installing it, and when it's installed, it doesn't work the way it's designed to be installed. So you get this finger pointing as to groups. That's Nexus's throat to choke. So we oversee. So we guarantee not only the performance, but we guarantee that the system's going to work the way it
Should we trademark that?
One throat to choke?
We're shooting for one back to Pat.
Mr. Positive.
I gotta sell t-shirts.
How do you want to do the
Sure.
summary here?
So just in summary, the scope we talked about at a high level, looking at a number of air handling unit replacements. In truth, it's more than that. It's getting rid of inefficient